So let's say I wanted to be a director. How would I get started? How would anyone get started?
Well, it's very different today just because of all the digital, stuff. It's a lot easier to start making things. So I think the best advice I would give is just to start making things.
Okay.
But with or without formal training, the best way to learn how to take that first step is by watching good movies and really breaking them down and analyzing them. I don't think people do enough of that.
Now, when you say good movies, like how could I find what would be considered a good movie or a good example of directing?
It's a tough question. I mean, you can go back to the older masters and watch Hitchcock and watch Orson Welles and watch Steven Spielberg films.
This is like what you were doing when you were at the library.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think that getting an idea of how films are put together and really looking at it and going, oh, okay, that's a shot. That's a shot. That person is looking in this direction. Getting the basics down in the film language as an audience member, I think, is the first step to really becoming a good filmmaker and a good director. But yeah, with the digital stuff now, it's you have to make that decision just to start making stuff and finding ways to do it. And on top of that, you have to kind of define where your success is, because we live in a world now where, you can be a filmmaker and you can have videos on YouTube that have 15 million views, and you can have 100,000 Twitter followers and 2,000 Instagram followers, and you can find a certain level of success if that's what you're looking for.
I'm thinking of, what's his name, Casey Neistat?
Yeah.
Yeah, he actually was a director, and now he's chosen to be a YouTube
personality.
And he's I actually chose from going from one to the other.
Sure.
Which is interesting.
Freddie Wong is a good example. Freddie Wong on YouTube does little action things, and it's there's a guy who started off doing stuff that he liked. It was fun. It was cool. He's he's a charming little personality. And for them, they managed to parlay that sort of popularity into money, because that was in the early days of YouTube, and so they became one of the first heavily subscribed channels. And they're minted, they're making money.
Yeah.
But you have to make that decision. It's what's most important to you? Are you a person who wants the creativity, the attention, that aspect of it? Are you more concerned about the money? Do you have the resources to pay for that stuff and to keep doing that?
Right.
Do you want both? And so those are very different sort of paths.
So if I want to be a director, maybe that's the first question I should ask myself.
What's most important to you?
What's most important?
Is it the process of filmmaking? Do you wake up every morning and go, I want to make something and be on set and cut it together? And is that your passion? Or is it, I really have some cool ideas, I love attention. I love waking up in the morning and looking at my, my social media feed and seeing people kiss my ass. Is that what's important to me? It's that's honestly, we have to make the decision, because the way you approach it, you have to decide, what's the priority level for you as a creative person, as a filmmaker. And if you want it all, then you really have to start embracing multiple disciplines. You have to find ways to finance things. You have to be creative, and you have to know the money aspect of it.
Right.
And now
that helped for you because you had the business end of it as well.
That was crucial, because I could actually look at it and say, okay, I know how to turn this movie into money later on to get money back for people.
I know a lot of talented filmmakers, and
can't do that.
They got the creative part down. So you kind of already touched on this, but let's say I want to be a director still, and I found the reason that I personally want to be a director. So you mentioned some of the in the field stuff I can do, but how about for formal training or education? Is there anything that you'd suggest, anything that's even outside the realm of film that would be beneficial?
Well, obviously the sort of business aspect. I mean, film schools are good for learning theories and learning about yourself, having the experience of being in college with other people, working together. It's sort of a good training wheels for that life experience, I think. But there's not a lot really, to be honest, in film school you're going to learn, because on the technical side, because things change so fast.
Right.
I mean, as an example, I made that miniseries called The Witches of Oz 5 years ago.
Okay.
I put together my own team of visual effects artists. We all, thousands of visual effects. It's fantasy. There's witches, magic, monsters, all this stuff going on. Flying monkeys, all this stuff happening. Lions, tigers, bears. Oh my! Yeah. You've got all this stuff going on, and it took us, almost a year with the team of people, using professional software to do all this stuff. And the main guy, who was the supervisor, that he and I are still friends. We still work together on stuff. And we just noted the other day, we're looking at all this new video game engine, real-time rendering stuff, and he looked at me and he's like, we could probably do The Witches of Oz in about 2 weeks, just the two of us now.
Wow.
And I'm like, no, yeah, you're right. We could. Just based on the technology, the workflows, everything, how it's changed.
Right.
And so when you go to film school, by the time you get out of film school, by the time you get into the business, all you really want to learn is the fundamentals. You want to learn the basics of it because
So that
the
you use it with any
technology
technology.
changes. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So they're actually learning a piece of software. Like, oh, I'm going to learn, I'll give you a good example is green screen keying, which everybody does, and it's all over the place. Well, the technology
We're
for
actually
that,
green screened right now.
we are actually.
We're in
this is-
Tahiti.
We're at my penthouse in New York, and so we had to make it look like we're on a. No. But but it's true. It's like the technology for that changed so much that the rules even of shooting green screen have changed.
Mainly it's blue screen now.
Sometimes it changes. But I mean, so learning that skill and paying to go to college to learn that, or even the camera stuff, doesn't really help you that much. But it's learning the theory and the practice of working with people that's important. So in that sense, I'd say any film school you go to that is a beneficial experience for those reasons. But anybody who says like, oh, I'm going to learn how to, because I learned how to shoot film. It's like, how useful is that today?
Right.
It's like I learned how to edit on old, actually cutting film stuff back in film school. Well, no one has that anymore.
Right.
The same classes I took at USC are still there, but now they use all digital stuff. So it's that aspect is different. But the basics, how do you put together a sequence? How do you put together a scene? How do you use audio? How do you subliminally direct the audience to what you want them to focus on using lens types? That's all, that doesn't change no matter what you're using.
Yeah. So let's say I took your advice. I went to a film school and I still want to be a director. I want to make my first film, but inevitably I'm going to make mistakes. So what are some of the common mistakes that you see young and inexperienced filmmakers make?
3 things. One is that they rely too much and they feel that if they don't go into it with some sort of improvisation or spontaneity on the day, that it's not going to be fresh and alive and whatever. So there's a huge reliance of young filmmakers of like walking into it and be like, oh, we're just going to vibe this out, man, and go handheld, and we're just going to let's see what we get. It's like, and that's almost an instant recipe for disaster, because what you realize if you see the guys who make films like that, you look at a Paul Greengrass film or you work a Mike Leigh film, it's not that. It's not that they're just walking into it. They create an environment to allow the actors to do that, to allow some of the kids, but they've actually got it more under control than some of the other guys. So that's a huge problem I see with young people that start off, or not young people, but just first-time filmmakers. The second one would be that there's a huge reliance on post-production, that they think post-production is going to be magical and that editing is going to be magical.
I always hear, like, well, we could fix this. Oh, let's do it in post.
Yeah, it's a joke, but it's true, and a lot of the directors go into it with that too, and that really affects when they're filming stuff, because they're seeing things in their head and they're not capturing it on film. I can't tell you how many times, or on tape, or on digital. I can't tell you how many times I've been like in an editing room with a first-time filmmaker, especially even like in corporate stuff, where the director they brought in, and I know there's a shot, no, go to the take where she does this, and it's not there. They never shot it.
Wow.
In their head,
they
saw it, but they didn't get it. And it's like that's a huge thing that first-time filmmakers do, is that they're seeing things, they're remembering things differently, they're not getting the shots they thought they got because they're not that organized, they're not that planned out, and they're not familiar enough to know and look at it. I can look at a take now, after doing this so many times, I can watch the monitor and be like, that's the piece I'll use that line. Yes, I can see.
So you're editing as you're going.
Yeah, it's a checklist in my head where I'm getting the things that I will need for later. But some people don't have that ability, so they think they're getting that stuff and they're not.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I'd say is that you have to look, especially on smaller budget stuff, you have to look at ways to maximize your production value. And it's not the same. A close-up of you is not the same as a close-up of Tom Cruise at this point. The audience will look at a close-up of you and be like, I like that guy. I like that guy. He's a good guy. He's not Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
But, so you can't get away with just shooting a shot of you in a restaurant in the corner and expect that same sense of production value. But if you just take you in that restaurant in the corner and turn the table the other way, so now we see the whole restaurant behind you, now you're getting some production value. Now you're getting something cinematic.
Okay.
And so first-time filmmakers forget that they have to sort of channel and use whatever they have in their resources to make things look bigger. And that also applies to like the types of lenses you use, the way you block something. It's much more interesting.
Cheat that with shallow depth of field.
Sure, it's like they try that, but it's like but that's a good point. It's like if the background isn't that interesting, we'll blur it out. Use the 85 millimeter lens instead of the 25. People moving is always more interesting than people sitting down talking. It's like I can't tell you. It's like, all right, next scene's up for a first-time filmmaker shoot, and it's another dialogue scene of 2 people, or one person walks in. It's almost a
telltale sign of a student film.
Yeah, they walk in and they sit down and talk. It's like, well, you don't want to do that. It's like even if I see that in a script that I get, or even I've written it, I go, ugh. They really shouldn't sit down and they should be doing something. So getting people to have that business and walking. You don't have to, and people think, oh, if they're walking, I need a steady cam or I need to track them. It's like, not necessarily. You can park the camera, I had one dialogue scene we shot in New York recently, and it's like we parked the camera a block away on a 135 millimeter lens. All these extras walking, wireless mics, the two actors talking as they move through Midtown Manhattan. And it looked huge, it looked cool, and it was cheaper and easier than stopping and doing coverage of the two of them standing or sitting in a park bench in Central Park. It's like, that doesn't give you anything. That
but
bench
most
could be anywhere.
filmmakers that are beginning out,
That's what they would do.
Yeah, they don't understand it. I can add something to that because on the acting end, I feel the young and inexperienced filmmakers, especially with the digital cameras, they're not so precious with their time or their film stock because it doesn't exist anymore. Let's just run that again. Keep the camera rolling, and they'll take after take when they don't need to. You start off with film. Film is precious. Film costs money. So you have to make sure you're getting it.
You have to get it. Yeah,
you're not overshooting, if you can help it.
Exactly. And I think that's a huge problem. And I think it's interesting, when digital stuff first came out, people were like, oh, finally, without the Hollywood gatekeepers and without all the business side, people with, digital cameras and YouTube are going to make the next amazing stuff. And we really haven't seen it, to be honest. We haven't seen anybody, no one's clicked on YouTube and been like, holy crap, this is like mind-blowing. And no studio had anything to do with this. And this is just a bunch of kids out in the middle of Ohio with their iPhones and After Effects that did this. That hasn't happened. And I think the reason for that is that there is a certain level of professionalism and aesthetic and education you have to have in order to do this. It's like nobody can just walk out necessarily and do that. You know what I mean? So I think it's been a mistake in terms of the expectations of the world and the fact that things are digital. Like you said, people are like, oh, we can just keep shooting. Or I personally hate multi-cameras on a feature film set, because unless it's like an action scene or something, because you're making compromises for like your lighting if you're trying to shoot two things at once.
Oh, sure, because it's not going to match lighting-wise. Is that?
Well, no, it's like because the cameras will see more of the set, so you can't put lighting where you want to necessarily. You kind of dumb down your lighting a little bit to do that. And actors will say they love it because they don't have to worry about their continuity. But to be honest, continuity is part of the acting. The reason why it's important is because it shows that you as an actor have planned out your emotion. So you're not just waving your hands. You wave your hand when you say the most important part of the scene. And you need to do that every single time because that makes the scene better. So it's not just a question of it being more expedient, but it's actually you get better performances if the actors have to worry about continuity. You know what I mean? And also two cameras and people go, oh, we shot the whole scene, we're done. Well, no, it's better if
just one take?
It's better if you get up and walk across the room, and now I've got another shot of me talking to you, and I'm talking to your back, and the camera's here. Then we cut to your shot over here. It's like that makes cooler sequences.
And that way you get both of our reactions.
Yeah, and then you've got now you've got a
close soap opera all the time.
Yeah, you've got a wide shot of the room. Now you're seeing the whole room. It's a close up on you. It's my back, and now the reverse is this. So you're seeing the whole space. You're getting a really nice sense of where you are in the world. You've got close ups, but there's a lot of stuff going on. That's so much better. Just on every level than just two people sitting in chairs talking to each other.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you're saying like the young and inexperienced filmmaker usually will cut corners and not even realize that they're cutting corners.
Yeah, they don't realize that.
Yeah, in fact, they think they're doing the opposite, you know. But in fact, it could harm it, you know. So what can you say is the difference between the filmmaker when you're coming in through USC and the filmmaker that's just graduated from USC or another film school today?
Well, I think the whole landscape's changed in terms of distribution and sort of the workflow of becoming a director and becoming a filmmaker, because the old way was you would make the film, get an agent, get a distributor.
Like you did with Beach House, right?
It goes to Sundance, it goes to Slamdance, it goes to Toronto Film Festival, and then from there you get your next project lined up. But that world has kind of disappeared because of all the online stuff and all the digital stuff. There's just more stuff being made.
Right.
So, that's become more difficult, and I don't think a lot of those filmmakers are even people who do win Sundance are not getting the same accolades and the same attention because those types of films now are not selling as well or doing as well, and people are making them cheaper across the board. So you really have to be creative if you're gonna spend money and want the money back. You have to also now sort of delve into the distribution side, and it's actually easier in a lot of ways. It just takes longer.
Yeah, I was going to ask: is it more competitive, do you think, or harder for?
It kind of is, but you've got a whole new set of resources. First of all, the quality of your work is going to do better. In the old days, if somebody really liked you or you had really good connections, they could kind of push your little garbage movie, through the system, and you'd get all the attention, even though your movie's crap.
Yeah.
Well, now it's harder because there's good stuff out there that people are making, so the good stuff tends to rise to the top.
Sure.
But now you've got all these extra tools at your disposal with distribution and social media and your own advertising that you've got the opportunity to make something. We have a film I did a couple years ago called Piranha Sharks, which was like cool. It was like a comedy.
I think I might know what it's about.
It's about piranha sharks, but it was a comedy, but it was like a rip on all the monster movies, like all these like Sharknado and all this crap. So it was a parody of those things. It turned out really well. People like it, and so it's like it's on Amazon, but it got enough of a little bit of traction. And then every time Shark Week is up, we kind of push it a little bit on social media, and then Amazon actually grouped it together for their Shark Week.
Nice.
So it's like this little movie is producing a lot of revenue because we kind of work those angles, and we're the distributor. There's no distributor. There's no third party involved. It's like we directly.
So wouldn't Amazon be the distributor in this case?
Amazon's the exhibitor, actually. They're the ones. Okay. They're like the theater, essentially.
Interesting. Got it.
So there's no middleman on that. So that actually helps too, because now we're making more money. We're not paying a commission to somebody to do that.
Right.
I have another show called the Penny Dreadful Picture Show, which is coming out later this year for Halloween, and that one, it's like similar thing, where it's like it's a social media push. We've got a distributor kind of handling the foreign sales, but a lot of it's going to rely on me doing cool little things online and sort of pushing it that way to make the money back. Right. So you've got those opportunities. You didn't have that before. Before you had to like take out, ads in magazines and
hire a PR person,
hire PR people, television commercials.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that anymore. People now see stuff, and people are also actively looking for stuff. There's all these communities. I put, when the trailer for the last thing came out, I put it up on Reddit, in the horror movie board. Well, I got 200-300 people talking about the movie now.
Cool.
And that spreads out from there. And those are other skill sets that now come into this filmmaker circus. It's different. You're not going to film festivals and running around putting your poster everywhere and getting people to come see it. Well, now you're online and you're in message boards and you're on Twitter and doing whatever to push people to buy your movie.
Oh, cool. All right. So my final question for you is, what is some lasting advice, anything that you'd say to anyone who wants to be a director?
I would say, I sum it up like this, and I think this is for anybody in any part of the entertainment industry. If you're the kind of person who wakes up every day and says, I'm going to try my hardest, I'm going to get out there, I'm going to do this to become an actor, to become a musician, to become a filmmaker, but if I don't do it by the time I'm 30, I'm going to go back and be a homemaker. I'm going to go back and I'm going to get my CPA degree. I'm going to go be a doctor. If that's in your mind, if you have a time limit or a backup plan of any kind, you should quit now. You should not go forward, because nobody who has a backup plan is going to have the fortitude to do this, because you can never quit, and there will be dark, dark times in your life. And horrible things are going to happen to you in this industry.
Oh God!
That you have to have that perseverance.
Yes.
Where you literally have to, I tell people, there is nothing else in this world I can do. It's not a question of me saying I'm going to be a filmmaker and a director and a producer, or I'm going to go be a lawyer, or I'm going to go into politics, or I'm going to go. I can't do that. In my mind, I'm either doing this or I'm a hobo. I'm going to go get a dryer box and live underneath a bridge in Van Nuys somewhere.
Nice bridges there.
They have great bridges, but those are my options. And everybody I've met who's been successful has had that. And
has that same mentality.
And everybody who I've met who hasn't really made it, talented people I've known along the years, talented, done great work, great stuff, but they're now out of the industry. But they've always had that in the back of their mind.
They always have a plan B.
A plan B. And you can't have that. You can't have a parachute. You can't have a net.
I've seen it happen with several people I know, and now they're completely different career paths. So I think that's the mentality of burn your ships. When you arrive on the shore, burn your ships so that you have to fight the war or you die trying.
Exactly.
So I think that's great advice. And on that note, I appreciate you doing this interview with me.
Absolutely.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks.